Thank you for tuning in to the Queen's Court podcast, a space curated for women by women. Here we celebrate empowerment, faith, sisterhood, and growth. So pull up a seat, settle in.
Welcome to the Queen's Court podcast, a space for women to be seen, heard, and empowered. I'm your host, Neicey Ford, and today's episode is one that comes straight from my heart. I want to, and this is going to be hard for me, y'all, I'm telling you, because I've already been crying. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. But this episode is, I'm going to share a story that kind of shaped me in ways that I didn't always understand at the time. But now that I've grown a little and I have a little more experience with life, I do understand it better. Uh, so I want to share the story about me growing up and losing my mother. Um, so again, I'm gonna try to make it through, y'all. So bear with me, okay? When I grew up in a single parent home. So my mother, she raised 5 kids. There was 5 of us, and I'm the youngest of those 5. So she had 3 boys and 2 girls. I remember her working every single day. I even recall her having multiple jobs at one time, just to make ends meet. And um, it was rough for her at times. But she did it, as a single parent in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, like she did it. My mother passed away on the very day that I graduated from high school from ovarian cancer. Um, and I think that she had it way longer than it would, way longer than they expected maybe that she had, or maybe she expected that she had, because growing up, I remember hearing her complain sometimes about pains that she was having in her lower, in her pelvic area. But because as Black women, Black people at that time, it was very hard for us to go to the doctor, or some of us just never went to the doctor. And so I don't believe she ever went to the doctor back then to have it checked, that pain checked out. And so fast forward to, this year of 1993, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and given a life expectancy of 6 weeks to live. I don't think that she made it the full 6 weeks because the cancer began to spread and the doctor stated that there was nothing else that they could do. So I want to say that she probably lived 3 weeks, 4 weeks before she passed. So for me at that time, one season of life was ending and another one was just beginning, because 6 months prior, I had stepped into adulthood and had my first daughter. And then there I was, suddenly without the woman that I thought would guide me through, all of this single parenting, being a young woman, a young adult, and navigating through life with this child. Um, I can still remember graduation day like it was yesterday. It is a memory that will be forever etched in my brain. So I'm sitting on stage alongside the rest of my classmates. I have tears rolling down my face. There was one classmate, uh, and I remember them jokingly saying, "Dang, you really gonna miss high school?" To which another classmate responded, because I had no way to respond. I couldn't say anything, but I heard her explain, like, no, she lost her mother. Her mother died this morning. So I remember, and I think I only remember this because I have the picture, but I remember walking across the stage, shaking the principal's hand, receiving my diploma, but everything else is a blur. And like I said, I think the only reason I remember that is because I've seen a picture of it. So that was the day that changed my life forever. The funeral, I remember sitting at the funeral in total disbelief. I was so numb that I couldn't even grieve. My daughter's grandmother told me that my daughter and I could stay with her because one of the things that my mother made sure of was that before she passed, she made sure that I applied for Section 8 and SNAP benefits so that I could have some type of assistance for my daughter. And so sh my daughter's grandmother had made her a promise that she would look after my daughter and I, and she did. Like, she was definitely a godsend, and she kept her word, to my mother. So we stayed with her until the apartment was ready that we were gonna move into was ready. And one night while we were still with the grandmother, I remember laying in the bed. I was asleep, but I opened my eyes and there was a figure that was standing at the foot of the bed. It was a woman dressed in all black and she was wearing this black veil. She started inching closer to me and I tried screaming, I tried moving, I tried doing everything, but I was completely paralyzed. But she kept inching closer. And so the closer she got, she went to grab, the end of the veil to lift it up. But before she could, like when I saw her grab the veil to lift it up, I closed my eyes so tight, as tight as I could. And when I opened them, she was gone. Now, although it was a scary encounter, but I wouldn't say that I was afraid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like the image or the woman was gonna hurt me in any type of way, but I did kind of feel like, like, Lorraine did on What's Love Got to Do with It when she was like, "Why is she here, Ike?" I did feel that way because I really wanted to know, like why I had this encounter or who the woman was. So thinking about it now, I do wonder, what was behind the veil, who was behind the veil, what what would I have encountered had I kept my eyes open, and more importantly, would what I saw had changed the trajectory of my life in a good way or a bad way? I was telling this story to a friend of mine, and she said, at the age that you are now, if you were to encounter, that woman again, she said, would you keep your eyes open? Uh, and I told her, yeah. And the reason why I think I would keep my eyes open is because when I am older and I would like to see or know what was behind the veil. Um, but at 18, I don't think I was ready. So I think it was more of my unconscious self protecting, the conscious me, if that makes sense in any way. But I think it was a protection thing for me for whatever was, behind the veil and just protecting me from that. But fast forward, almost 2 years later, I would actually give birth to my second daughter. And from that moment on, I wasn't just trying to grow up myself. I was growing up with my kids, literally. So I always think about my mother and my sister. I had a older sister who has actually passed away as well. But my mom and my sister, they had this relationship because I don't want to say they were close in age, but they were they were close enough, I guess. But my mother, after working a long week, she would typically spend the majority of the weekends at my sister's house. And they would just hang out, now my sister was much older than I was, but like I said, her and my mom, they would just hang out. They would have cocktails, they would fry chicken and play cards, go out, hang out. And those were things that I couldn't wait to do, moments that I couldn't wait to share with her as well. I truly feel like I missed out on like those simple things, meaning the late night phone calls when, you just needed some advice, or I would be envious when I would hear my friends talk about them and their mothers, they were going get ready to go to the mall or going out to eat. So I feel like I missed out on those things, dinners, where you would get to talk about life and love and the future. So I didn't have those conversations. I didn't have that safety net. What I did have was the weight of responsibility and the constant reminder that some lessons I would have to learn the hard way, lessons that most people are taught. I had to discover on my own. Um, I always say this, and it's the absolute truth. I grew up with my children. Um, I made tons of mistakes. I'm not even gonna lie. I know I made a lot of mistakes. There were days that I doubted myself, nights that I cried in silence, and moments that I even questioned whether I was good enough. But the one thing that I know for sure is that I did the best that I could with what I had and what I knew at that time. Motherhood didn't come with a manual, and neither did life for me. So I had to figure it out in real time, side by side with these little girls watching me and looking up at me for guidance, even as I was still searching for it myself. So, there were bills to pay, relationships to navigate, futures to create, all while boiling bottles, changing diapers, and working, trying to make sure that I could provide financially just for their basic needs. So I was teaching lessons that I hadn't even fully learned myself. Um, I would have loved to, I definitely would have loved to have had my mom around as I navigated through relationships because she was real, honey. If she didn't like you, she didn't like you, and she was gonna tell you. So I miss that about her. I miss that candidness about her, and thinking about some of the pain that I endured over my young adult, my young adulthood years. I know that some of those blows probably would have been lessened had she been here because her advice and wisdom would have saved me from a lot of heartache and pain. She would have been that comforting soul that I needed to confide in or to run to when my heart hurt. She would have been able to tell me, just come on home, baby, pack your stuff. Actually, she probably would have came and packed it for me, but just pack your stuff, when I suffered through these bouts of domestic violence. So she would have been that person to just simply give me a hug when I had a bad or rough day. When I think about the void of not having my mother, I realized that it did shape my view of a couple of different things, definitely womanhood and also parenting. And it did that in ways that I didn't recognize at the time. I thought women had to do it all. I didn't have, again, a lot of women pouring into me, showing me that it was okay to lean on others or to rest, or to simply be me. My view of womanhood was slightly skewed because I did believe that I had to carry everything on my own shoulders, and sometimes I still feel that way. So my partner, he'll tell me, he'll have to say sometimes like, "Neicey, can I do it?" But so I'm still learning. Parenting is probably the other thing that it shaped my view of. So when but in thinking about it, when I was, thinking about doing the podcast, I couldn't really think of I wasn't really for sure how it shaped my view of parenting. But what I do know is that I did what I had to do. I couldn't give my kids an extravagant lifestyle because I didn't have the finances, but I made sure that they had everything that they needed. I made sure that they felt loved and that they knew that I was present, because um and maybe that is it, maybe that's how parenting shaped me. Like it taught me presence over perfection because my mother didn't have a lot of money, but she made sure that she was there. She was present and always loving. So it taught me that love isn't measured by how much money you spend, but by how much time and presence you give. Because I realized that I didn't need to give my kids the world. They just needed me. And that shifted my view of parenting from providing things to definitely providing love. So, um, yeah, I would say that it definitely shaped me in that way. And another way that it shaped me too is it pushed me into a strength that I didn't know that I had. Because, like I said, I couldn't quit. I couldn't just fall apart because I had these 3 little girls that was watching me, 2 at that time, but, again, growing up, like, I had 3 little girls that was watching me, so it taught me resilience, not just surviving for myself, but surviving for my daughters. Um, it also gave me independence. I had to figure life out. Life was like they say now, life was lifing, and I had to figure it out. I had to pay bills, I had to keep food on the table, I had to raise kids all at the same time. So life was lifing. It was lifing. Um Parenting made me independent, even when the independence felt heavy. And that was all the time for me. Because again, I still at this point haven't even grieved over the loss of my mother. So I'm still carrying this internal grief, um, because I don't know how to release it. And I'm still trying to make it through life with these 3 little girls watching. So, ooh, goodness. So that's one thing that I could always give them though was me. And even when I wasn't perfect, I was there. And so sometimes, that presence is worth more than anything that money could ever buy. Um, what I found, who y'all, I told y'all I didn't know that I could make it. What I found, along the way was resilience. I found a strength that I didn't know that I had. Love. I love hard, and I think love ran deeper than the fear, deeper than the mistakes, the absence that I carried, from losing my mother. It definitely was one of the things that kept me going. And looking back now, I realize something powerful that, my children didn't just watch me grow. They grew with me. They saw me stumble. Um, they saw me stumble more times than I could probably count, but they also saw me rise just as many times, if not more. And they learned that love doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. So they call me their superwoman, and every single one of them have me saved in their phone that way. I remember telling a lady one time and kind of braggingly, I was I was like, my daughters have never seen me cry because when I get overwhelmed or didn't know how I was gonna make it from one day to the next, I would cry in the shower because they couldn't, the water's running, the tears are flowing, but they were stifled, so they couldn't hear me. And so I'm thinking I'm doing, like, this is a good thing. Like, they've never seen me cry. So, but she told me, she said, she was like, you're doing your girls a disservice by not allowing them to see you cry. She said that it's not about weakness, but the lesson is in how you find your strength again. And that made a lot of sense to me. And now, baby, I cry about everything. Do you hear me? I cry about movies, songs, thoughts, especially this talking about my mom. I always cry now about my mom. Um, and they're so consoling and gentle, but shoot, they do the same thing. We're all just one big old ball of tears, I guess. But I love it. I love that they're not afraid to cry, and uh that to me now tears are just like a form of release. It's a cleansing. Whew, Jesus. Sorry, y'all. Life was hard. It was hard. I mean, there was not a day that went by that I didn't miss my mama. There's still not a day that goes by that I don't miss her. One of the things that I regretted most, I think, well, not I think, but I know, one of the things that I regretted most was that we didn't have a lot of photos together. Um, but I made sure that for my daughters, like they don't have that same issue. So I take pictures of everything, honey. And every time, every place that we go and we're together, like I'm snapping pictures because I want to make sure that they have these memories, in these pictures to reflect on when I'm gone. So I went out and I bought 3 memory boxes, and so each time we all take pictures, I'll get these, I'll get 'em printed out, and I'll put one in each box so that they can have it, when I'm gone or when I pass on. And so, I want them to have as many memories of me as they can because like I said, I didn't have enough of my mom. So, yeah. Uh, whoo, girls, ladies. I hope y'all still hanging in there with me and I haven't got all y'all nerves yet. So one of the other things when I was growing up, or after I had my girls, my prayer to God had always been that He would bless me with enough time on earth to see my girls grow up. And He has definitely done that. And I'm forever grateful for that because my daughters, they're all grown now. Two of them have kids. One is living her best life, honey. She is enjoying life. And I love that for her, So I'm so grateful because again, the opposite. It was the opposite for me, but I'm so glad that they have me here for however much longer they do. And I'm gonna enjoy every moment. So, oh, not long ago, a friend of mine lost her mother. And she said, "How did you do it?" And for a moment, I didn't know what to say because the truth is, I was 18 when I lost my mom and I was stepping into adulthood and I didn't really do it. I kind of stumbled through it. I survived. I learned as I went. But with her being grown, like the pain, the pain still leveled her. That moment showed me that losing your mother breaks something in you no matter what age you are. The difference for me at 18 was that I didn't even have the language for my grief. Um, I pushed through because I didn't feel like I had a choice. At her age, she has the maturity to name the loss, to grieve out loud, but the ache, the pain, it was still the same. What I realized that day is that there's no blueprint for losing your mom. There's no right way to survive it. All we can do is walk through it, holding on to the pieces of love that we were given and finding ways to carry out that legacy forward. I uh I watch my daughters with their children. And when I tell you I am so proud of them, so proud of the women that they are and the women that they're still striving to be and growing into. So I love being able to see them and their growth. And as they navigate motherhood, I hope they know, that they're not going to be perfect. None of us are. I think motherhood is or shoot, just parenting in general. It's probably one test that no one passes with 100%, but it doesn't mean that we're failing. And like I said again, motherhood it's not about perfection. For me, it was about presence. It was about pushing forward when it was hard. Loving your children, when you didn't have a mother to love you and well, not saying that you didn't have a mother to love you, but you lacked in those years, like that motherly love. You had to navigate life again without that person and being there to help them navigate their lives, their own lives and their lessons, like that to me is worth it. So looking back, I realized that in raising my children, I definitely became the mother that I once needed. And now, as I watch my daughters raising theirs, I see the legacy of that love living on. So, whew, yeah, this was rough. Um, so I want to say, before I end, because I really am very congested at this point. Um, I just want to say that to every woman listening, I want you to remember that you don't have to get it all right and you are not alone. Um, your struggles don't disqualify you if they do anything at all, they connect you. And your presence I mean, your imperfect, beautiful, authentic presence, honey, is the gift. It's the greatest gift that you can give to your children and to yourself. So remember that. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. So until next time, also, I want you to remember this, that you are worthy, you are strong, and your story, no matter how messy, is still crowned with purpose. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us in the Queen's Court today. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and download so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep reigning with purpose and walking in power.